Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome to another acrylic painting Thursday. So we're going to go ahead and get started with a drawing first before we get into any of the colors. And I know that that might be a tad bit too light on my screen, so let me fix that for you. So how's everyone doing today? Hopefully everyone's excited for another acrylic. We're working on a white surface here. This is a 9 by 12 inch cotton canvas. Shout out to the model Bree. Thank you, Bree, for letting me paint your portrait here on YouTube. I know that when I change the light sensitivity, you see those little lines, but hopefully that'll clear up later. But yeah, I have Bree's information linked in the description box. So a link to her Instagram is in the description box. She also likes to work in acrylic, so I thought might as well do this one painting in acrylic. And I will definitely mention the importance of the sta-wet palette, which is what you see right over here. The sta-wet palette, I just cleaned it off. I'm trying to figure out how long this piece of paper, this paper will last. And it's been, I don't know, it's been more than a month now. So I'm assuming it's, they last a really long time. I'm exaggerating. It's been way more than a month. It's probably been like at least 2 months since we've been doing these acrylics. And even before that, I was already using this palette with this paper. So right now I'm just kind of getting a placement for the back of the hair, and I think right here should be good. The hair is an important part of the composition here. Top of the head, somewhere roughly about there. Hey Grace, Giselle, thanks for leaving a like. Uncle Earl, welcome. And thank you, Mike, for joining earlier. Yeah, I finally got my chat box thing situated. So the chat box, it works now. Before I was using my tablet, and my wife was the one that told me to use Chrome. So apparently Google Chrome works for your YouTube chat. Top of the hair up here. Remember, these are long streams. 3 hours at a time. We take a break every hour. So feel free to paint along with me. Or just have this playing on the side, kind of like a podcast. That's what we're aiming for, something like a podcast, but with painting. Of course, right now it's the all-important drawing stage. The outlines are really important. Acrylic is way more forgiving than watercolor, but they share similar traits in the sense that they dry fast. All you need is water. Following along the outside shape. And we're gonna work in the type of Bouguereau style with this one. At the angle, that might be a bit sharp. So perhaps maybe this instead of this. Difference between this and this. But either way, when we get into color, we'll be able to correct anything that needs to be corrected. The placement for the eye sockets is more important than details for the eyes at this stage. Now, if you've been watching these streams for a while, you probably have an idea of kind of the order of operations of which that we're going to work. And this is going to actually push this back. So the hair is actually going to go past the edge of the canvas, which is fine. Cheekbone. Hey Mark, welcome, welcome. Yeah, so somewhere about there, it's gonna be placement for that. Unlike with watercolor, you can erase a little bit more in your drawing because we're working on a canvas, so it's much more sturdy than working on paper. Okay, the mouth is gonna fit a little bit higher up as expected. I tend to always make the mouth too low. The mouth falls somewhere over there. Gives us the angle of the face. Now that we're working our way down towards the chin. Shadow shape for the chin. Okay, so double checking this angle here before we get into color. So this seems to be about correct. The distance between the eyes seems to be relatively close enough. Upper eyelid there. Upper eyelid here. Move this back as we did grow part of the face. It's important to do this in the early stages. And I looked up some app for the trivia. So after the first break, basically whenever we get into the subtleties, we'll have our little game, our trivia, art history trivia game. I won't tell you what app it is because then you'll be able to get the answers much faster. Plus, I know some art history myself too, so I'll be able to guide us through that. As expected, the back of the hair is gonna fall back there. The hoodie connects right here. Placement of the ears below the nose. So these are the things that you want to have as close to set in stone as possible. So again, a link to Bree's Instagram is in the description box. Another fellow artist. So we're going to be painting everyone we can on these streams. Cast shadow. A little bit more for the drawing, and then we'll be able to jump right into the washes of light and shadow. That should be pretty good. So Gacelliero timing is key. Can't use the scrub technique with acrylic. Gentle touches, yeah. Gentle touches, of course. We'll explore all kinds of techniques with these acrylics. And it's okay if it smudges a little bit there. So here are the important things to note in a drawing. Proportion of the head. Top of the head relative to the bottom. Top and bottom relative to how long this part is. Vertical versus your horizontal. Next thing is going to be the placement of the eyes relative to the top of the head, bottom of the head. Now, because we are looking slightly up in perspective, this should be roughly about a little less than half. So perhaps this has to go a smidgen up that way, very small. Angle of the eyes is crucial. the placement of the nose and the mouth should be relatively close in this drawing stage. However, don't fear. Typically, the mouth is the thing that we move the most in pretty much all portrait paintings. So don't fear the mouth having to move it. It's not that big of a deal. So that's good enough. Now what we're gonna do is add the washes of light and shadow. We're gonna go over the color palette because I did clean it. So this is the same sta-wet palette setup. So again, very important. This is crucial to the setup. Okay, I am not sponsored by the brand, but there it is, sta-wet handy palette, and I still have 3 sheets of palette. This one has lasted for months of constant use, so I really recommend this product. Not sponsored by any company, just telling you what my experience has been with it. Color wise, I've set it up just like an oil painting palette. So we've got white, 3 yellows, 2 reds, 1 orange, 2 blues, black, and then there's a gray here that I just have just to have it. So I'm gonna thin out the paint a little bit, not too much. We're gonna start adding our little washes here. Don't worry about this drying dark. It's going to look really dark relative to everything around it. And if you thin it out enough, you'll actually see the lines underneath. See that? So you'll actually see the lines underneath. So we're working with these little washes. And if any information is lost, like the ear, we can still see the placement of it. Don't worry about it. You'll be able to find it again. But it's important that you cover your light and darks right away. Now in the past, we used a more mass-oriented approach with these up until we started using watercolor. So watercolor kind of introduced more of a, shall I say, controlled approach, controlled chaos, as opposed to working with big masses like we were doing before, which we still can do. But this is going to yield a much more accurate resolve. More accurate result. And we can cover more than we think we have to. The eye ended up looking a little small, but that's okay. It's not like, again, I keep saying watercolor. It's not like watercolor where you have to be extremely careful with that, because we can use white to bring that back. And we will. Of course, if it was watercolor, we would just accept it. But because this is acrylic, it gives us more of a chance to make mistakes. So for this dark wash, I'm just using black, burnt umber, a little bit of gray. Hey, Hansel dog. So let's use this again to locate the ear. The ear was right about somewhere over there. Close enough. keep your shapes simple and easy. And you know the rest. One of my teachers always said that you never regret spending a little more time on the drawing. So we did spend a little more time. We spent about an extra 10 minutes more than usual with the drawing. Now this has the consistency of more of like a pen and ink kind of look at this stage. Now this is how critical light and shadow is. So you can already get pretty strong effect from just light and shadow. On its own, it's already pretty marketable. I'm gonna go back with the black. We're gonna add another wash. Black with a little bit of red. Then we're going to cover the background and then we'll add a wash for the hair. I mean, the skin tone. And for that, we will change brushes. Yep, cancel light and shadow, create form. Definitely need form. Now, because of the effects that we're gonna go for, I'm just gonna go ahead and just mix something close to what I think the background color will be. All these colors are set up again just like an oil painting palette. And in fact, I like this setup so much that I might buy a second sta-wet palette to put my oil paints in and just keep them in the freezer. And of course, it looks different on the camera, but I like this look, as opposed to having the camera uh, basically have to fit the palette and the canvas. But I will experiment with everything. Covering the background now. And to be honest, if I were to start a serious competition, huge paint, I'd probably start it off like this with acrylic. Maybe take it to as close to a finish as I can with acrylic, and then start painting onto it with oil paint. You could totally do that. Acrylic paint is just more practical. To be honest, it's just way more practical. And this palette keeps the paint wet for a long, long time. So, uh, I've learned a lot in the past couple months with all of these different materials. But one major thing that I've learned is that um, oil paint is just too high maintenance for um, like trying to do regular everyday painting and still maintain a life where, you go eat lunch or go to a pool league like minutes after painting. You just put your brushes in a cup of water and just let them be. Cover this up, let it be. Oil paint, if you leave your brushes out, they're gonna get messed up. This is just way more practical. Of course, the tradition of oil paint is kind of a thing. It's a huge thing. But this is just more practical. So let me know, any acrylic painters here. And Bree, if you're here, let me know. Going back in with the dark. Still, though, if I were to go to a painting group, I would prefer to bring my oil paints, mainly because that's just how I was trained. So it just has that like tradition. Of course, traditions are meant to be broken. New materials. Acrylic is relatively new. New materials should always be given a try, given a shot. Now, before we get into the skin tone, I'm going to add color for the shadow. It's nice to finally have an orange here. Like I said, I got 3 yellows, 1 orange, 2 reds, a brown, 2 blues. So this is cobalt blue and ultramarine blue. Another nice thing about acrylic is it's a lot cheaper. And it's cheaper for a reason. People say you get what you pay for, but excuse me. I like this. I like this setup. No complaints here. And these aren't even the more expensive acrylics. These are the cheaper ones. And they work just fine. Okay, so now we're going to use this same color, and we're going to start mixing towards the white. And we're going to start to create our first little skin tone here. So this is how you use a palette like this. Some may say it's too small, but smaller palettes lean themselves more towards very specific gradations. So going back to the red, like I said, this is not going to dry on the palette as you're mixing. So this is going to stay available for us to use. Yeah, it makes sense, yeah. Use acrylics first and finish in oil paint. So here it is. Here's our skin tone. Pretty much just orange, blue, and white. Now, of course, there is a difference with the acrylic in the sense that it's difficult to get your lights back. So we're going to put this little wash, just like we usually do. Paint is really thin, as you can see. pretty close to the consistency of a watercolor. And while it remains workable, we'll go in with straight white. Hey, Anna, or Amna. I'm good, I'm good. I'm using with water. I do have a medium, but I'm using just water. So we're going in with straight white. We're gonna get our little gradations here. Just straight white while the paint is still workable. It behaves like oil paint long enough for us to do this. So of course we're starting lighter because it's difficult to build lights with this, as opposed to something like oil paint. A Parasto Art, welcome, welcome. And now we'll just let this dry, and we will kill off the rest of the white of the canvas down here, and then we're gonna add another layer to the background, all while that's drying. Drip, drip, funny. So here, straight gray, water, let it drop, straight gray, water, let it drop. You can paint as thin as you want. Because we're gonna cover it with more paint anyway. Now we've killed off the white of the canvas. And now we'll go back to the mixture for the background. So black, yellow ochre, and we'll use this part of the palette later for more of the skin tones. Now we'll add the medium, which is a golden brand medium. It's this one, golden glazing medium, which looks like white. It's actually right here. It's on the bottom left of the screen for the palette. Yeah, the drips were just for you. And nicely apply this. Careful with the silhouette. I need to make more of the time lapses for Instagram and for YouTube. I've just been kind of caught up with everything, as you might imagine. So black, yellow ochre, some gray, the glazing fluid. It applies quite nicely. more of the glazing fluid. And we'll continue to add more layers to the background as we go. But this is how you work with acrylic. As you're working one area, the others are drying. And you just go round and round you go. Yep, still the same medium that I started the streams with. Still the same. You don't really need that much. Now we'll go and add shadows to the eyes. Don't worry about any rounding out of any forms just yet. Don't need to worry about that. Just focus on light and shadow shapes. You'll have plenty of time to make it look round as you go. So acrylic can be very useful for more realistic paintings, abstract kind of paintings, whatever you want. It's very versatile. And you can use white with it. So way more forgiving than watercolor. Adding a little bit of black there and red. You can see planes clearly on your painting, more on the phone than the TV. Interesting. Hey, I'm on TV. I'm a TV star. This is just a darker brownish red. And of course I'm going to adjust the light sensitivity now. In the beginning, I made it really, really light because of, well, we were drawing on the white canvas. Now the white canvas is gone. And we can readjust the light sensitivity. I'll add another layer for the skin tones. And then after that, well, we'll be able to go right into rendering. Back to this mixture. Glazing fluid. A parasitical art. To use any medium to make it dry slower. The medium I'm using by Golden Brand, typically it says that it makes it dry slower, but not really. No, I like the acrylic to dry as fast as it can. Hey, Melody successfully tried painting a no-tan version of her portraits first, but struggled with getting highlighted areas back in. Yes, it does dry darker. Exactly. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's why I went in with the white right away. So doing that will save you a lot of frustration with acrylic. I mean, a lot of frustration. And kind of like watercolor, I'm just going to leave that alone. I personally don't try to make the acrylics dry faster, or I mean, sorry, slower. I like that the acrylics dry fast. It it makes it adds something to it, I think, to the experience, especially coming into this as primarily an oil painter. So we're adding another wash. This is more of a layer than a wash. Preserving some of the lights that are most essential. And then yet again, while it's still workable, we'll go in with straight white and blend into it. So it gives you a long enough window of which it behaves like oil paint. So it gives you a long enough window like that where it behaves like oil paint. So like I said, everything is lighter, intentionally lighter. Because with acrylic, like I said, it dries darker. Melody, it's a Golden Brand gloss glazing liquid. Golden Brand gloss glazing liquid. So that's what I'm using. Not sponsored by anybody, though I wish I was. We'll get there. We will get there. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is add another layer to the shadows. As you can see, you can still see through the canvas, which is a telltale sign that you need another layer. And everything is relatively flat right now. So in the beginning, you want to keep everything relatively flat. And of course, the shadow comes out a little further. Don't worry about this sharp edge drying that way. Once we get into subtleties, it will be quite easy to round things out all you've got to do is pre-mix your values carefully on the palette, and then just there you go. There's a plane here that we're going to develop later on. ASP, oh, thank you, thank you. Yes, the glazing liquid does make it shinier. It does create kind of like a gloss look to it, which is why I like to use it. I bought it because it was a gloss, and I know that with oil paints, the gloss makes a huge difference in the darks. So that's why I got the gloss. For sure. Thin it out with the water. Is a B. You do portrait with oil paint. We just did that yesterday. But yes, every Wednesday we do that. While the paint's still wet, let's see if we can do something interesting with it. I don't know if this is gonna work, but interesting. I'm gonna leave that alone. This is just experimentation doing that. Now, what happens is if you mix into this before it fully dries, it lifts. So I gotta be cautious with that. Yes, in theory it does give you more time, the glazing fluid, but that's not why I use it. And this is probably still wet, yeah, yeah, it is. So it probably gives you an extra, I don't know, say extra 2 minutes that it's workable. So yeah, that could be a thing, but the reason I got it was mainly for the gloss. Another layer of dark. And with acrylics, you really got to keep adding the layers because unlike with oil paint, when they dry, sorry, when you leave them alone for a couple minutes, they look slightly different. That doesn't happen with oil paint until it dries, and then it sinks in, and then you have to either oil it out or work on top of it as it is. Well, I have this dark. Might as well just start using this. This is all gonna get darker anyway over here. Don't apply too much pressure because it will lift. Because I know that I haven't given this enough time to fully dry. So be careful with that. Let's see. So like I said, you really hate when that happens. That's why I said lighter touch needed so it doesn't lift. That's true, yeah. Interesting, that's what I just said. Yeah, you read my mind. All right. Oh, good. I'm glad you like the ability to get feedback. Of course, anytime, anytime. Ask me any questions that you have. Think of this as a, like a painting podcast. It's interactive, an interactive one. Trust me, I don't like to sit here and listen to my own thoughts exclusively as I'm painting. I really enjoy the feedback from everyone. Now we'll create this gradation, and we're gonna go from here to here with the middle values, and we're gonna let this be the dark. So this is the light, as you can see. That's gonna be the lightest area there. So we can see now that from there, we can get much darker. So yellow ochre. Let's use orange. More orange. Just load a ton of orange and red onto this. I have two different reds. One is a medium, one is a light. The medium I'm hoping is going to be somewhat closer to like an alizarin color. Okay, so there you have the start of the gradations here. So it's three values here. Hopefully that's clear. You can see three values. And now what we're going to do is we're going to build our planes, build the realism of all of it using these three, and we're going to mix directly into them to create more. So it's not going to be just three. This is why the sta-wet palette is so important. I cannot stress how important it is. Oh, thanks, Scissors B. I'm really happy to be able to do this. This is a very unique experience as a painter. I'm not really one that likes to sit in this isolation. I've always been kind of like a social artist, if those exist. So I enjoy this, and I do like this as a means of making a living. So really, it's a win-win. I added a fourth one, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, we'll continue to add. So let's try this out. That's pretty good. And we're going to use a different brush. We'll start to round out eyelid. Like I said, we made it too small before, and now we can increase the size. Hopefully there's a little bit of something for everyone here. Yes, sta-wet, STA. Why not use alizarin? The reason is the alizarin wasn't on sale. I pretty much just got whatever was on sale. And by sale, I mean I got most of these tubes for less than $5 US. So yeah, that's why. My Stay Wet palette is the smaller one. My hand is bigger than the Stay Wet palette. So just for comparison, the Stay Wet palette is smaller than this. So yeah, it's small. So these are gonna be little mini layers, or like I said with let's put the other. You're only gonna need one brush for this, by the way, so I'm gonna put the other ones back in the signature. Not sponsored by McDonald's water cup. Not that I endorse any any restaurants or whatever, but that's where I keep it. And now we're gonna start to round it out, put in all the realism that everybody wants. The question always comes up, how do you round things out in acrylics? And the secret to rounding things out in acrylics is this. Have the organization on your palette. It's gonna go a long way, a long, long way in your painting. You know, you can paint wet into wet or wet into dry. When you paint wet into dry, you let the brush kind of apply a little bit of broken color. And you'll feel on the brush when the paint starts to stiffen. Now, unlike watercolor, you can't reactivate the paint. Once it dries, it dries. Once it starts to lift, as you see there, it starts to lift. So that means you just gotta give it time. And then just move on to another plane. And always remember, if you break things up too early, the overall, let's just say unification of the planes gets a little bit confused. So that's why we didn't just jump right into this stage. We built up the light and shadow first. This brush is a cheap Michaels brush. It's one of those cheap artist loft brushes. Unlike with oil paint, in my opinion, my humble opinion, you don't need expensive brushes with acrylic. And that's more like a conjecture because I can't really like give you any proof other than the painting. But yeah, you don't, in my opinion, you don't really need the really, really fancy, expensive brushes with acrylics. Let's see. Leaving brushes in a standing cup full of water. I've always been told not to leave my brushes standing water because it ruin the form of the bristle. Yeah, it's not good for the brushes. I mean, if you can clean it, I mean, if you clean it after every use, just like you do with oil painting brushes, then yeah, they'll be fine. But the brushes I'm using cost less than, say, $5 each, so to me it's more acrylic. To me it was more for the convenience. So in theory, yeah, you want to keep your brushes out of the water, but in practice, if you're painting every day, probably don't have time to fully clean the brushes, even though it only takes a couple minutes, to be honest. This is I don't really know the best way to compare the size of the brush other than hold it next to a pencil. So it's pretty much the width of a standard size 2 kids pencil. I could use a bigger one, but this is just what I'm using right now. And we're gonna go on break soon, so this area here is taking a while to dry fully, so I'm gonna add quite a bit of paint onto it. And let that dry. And we'll go back to the gray of the shadow here. Make this shadow a little darker. Same thing here. And I'm just preparing for what parts I want to dry while I'm on break. So of course, before I take a break, I usually let it dry a certain way. So I tend to use a lot more paint just before break. lot more paint there. More of an orangey yellow. Let that exist down here. And of course, it'll dry slightly darker. Make sure that that dries. So I think that's good. That's good. We put our first little indications of planes in there. And now should be good to go to start to get into subtleties. So right on schedule. All right, so this will be the point where I will take a break. Anyone that may be new, I usually play, well, I guess I always play a video of my Shiba Inu Hugo. So hopefully you won't be too bored of that. I'll take a break for a couple minutes, then I will return. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to. One more thing. I don't like the way that this looks, so I'm gonna go over it now. Yeah, so when you're about to take a break, especially with acrylics, just cover whatever you want to dry and not lift. See how that's starting to lift again? Cover it quickly. This is why I don't like slow drying materials for acrylic. If anything, if I could make that medium dry faster, then I would. So let that dry as much as it will, and we will return. All right, so I'll be back in just a couple minutes, everyone. Alrighty then. I have returned. So, I think I will save the trivia for the second break. After thinking about it, I think maybe two hours of trivia during the stream might be a bit much. So we'll start to do that perhaps after the next break. Remember, we have 2 breaks per stream, 1 break each hour. So I'm not gonna do the trivia just yet. I know some of you might have been getting your spare tablets or computers ready to start Googling, but we'll paint a little bit more before we do that. So maybe we'll make a tradition of doing that after the second break. That's typically when people start to drop off, I think, anyway. So try to keep you somewhat interested in what we're doing is the goal. And we can just completely cover the white and go into it with white. That's pretty good for the forehead for now. I'm going to use the gray into the skin tones. So it's too soon to do much for the hair, so I'm going to just soften that for now. I'm still going to give this area a little more time to dry. So those that think that acrylics dry really fast, they kind of don't dry that fast. They don't dry as fast as you would think. Go with the bluish dark gray. See if this is dark enough. I think it is. Hey, Grace. Oh, okay. Well, no worries, no worries. We'll be back tomorrow. And yeah, maybe I'll introduce the trivia before the second break. But we'll see. And we probably will. I noticed that yesterday there was kind of a drop off when I started the trivia. Not quite in the subtleties with this one yet. So probably be another 10 minutes till I enter the subtleties. And it was the time that it took with the drawing in the beginning. Nah, Trivia Tuesdays is too much for me to remember. It's already a lot for me to remember. I think we'll keep the trivias on uh I wouldn't say every time, but it could be every time. A more spontaneous schedule. And you know what? What I'm gonna do is trivia will be introduced whenever I don't really have much else to say. Once it becomes too complicated to explain things, like the corner of the eye socket gets a little bit more orange in comparison to the pink of the tear duct on the adjacent side. Things like that are just too many words. That's when trivia will basically save me. Of course, I know some of you prefer the silence as well. Prefer the silent treatment when I don't speak as much. So, you know what? I think we're actually there. What was bothering me when I first came back was the way that the eyes looked. There was something bothering me about it because usually that's not something that I get wrong. So I think we've sorted it out, and it was not so much a drawing thing as it was a color thing. Notice how I jumped right into that in the beginning because I knew that that was too it was off basically, and there's still more of a orangey color here. So it was more of the color that was concerning me there. But yeah, so now that I don't really have that much else to explain, I'll start to ask the painting trivia questions. And we got about 34. Let's see if the number drops significantly like it did last time, like it did yesterday. So hopefully it doesn't, but we'll find out. Perfect. That's the color that I wanted. Perfect. I don't think I'm going to touch that. That's going to stay. That was really something that I was struggling with before. Let's see if this is dry. Nope. Still takes a little while. All right, let's have some fun with this. Now that I don't have too much that I can explain, let's go to this app. Uh, David. Okay. Oh, I just gave the answer away. Darn. Let's see. So, what year was The Death of Marat painted? A painting by David. What year was The Death of Marat painted? It's a very famous painting of a person that's dead in a bathtub, sitting there in a bathtub. Whoever answers this gets a point. And keep track of your points, please. Because I certainly can't. And of course, if you have any art questions, please feel free to ask. If you don't like the trivia, let me know. If you want to just say hi, please feel free to say hi. correct. 1793 to Grace. Okay. So let's keep going here. Names here I can't even pronounce. What year was the milkmaid painted? And you know what the milkmaid is. So what year was the milkmaid painted? And for anyone that's wondering what's going on, this is just a fun trivia that I add when I enter the subtleties stage of a painting. Usually there's not much to say and I'm just sitting painting in silence. So in efforts to keep this more educational for you, we'll start to include some trivia. So whoever answers this one first gets a point. What year was the milkmaid painted? Depends on what site as well. Yeah, so the site that I'm looking at says 1658, but 1 year difference is not a big difference. Not a big difference at all. Okay. So the next one, on the same note, the milkmaid, painted by Vermeer, of course painted by Vermeer, features a very famous yellow pigment. What was the name of this pigment that Vermeer used? This doesn't come from the app, this comes from me. Hey Giselle. Oh, there's more ads than usual. Uh-oh. And you're painting. Okay. No worries there. No worries. Craftomatic. I mean, Lisa. Close, close. But not quite yet. We didn't have cadmium yellow yet during the time of the milkmaid. So what are you painting, Giselle? What's on the easel? There we go. Another point goes to Grace. Hansel dog close, but vermilion is a red. And we were talking about the yellow. Lead tin yellow. Correct, correct, correct. Another point goes to Grace. Okay. Here's an anatomy question. The cheekbone is also referred as what? What is the anatomical name for the cheekbone? Starts with a Z. Thanks for the question, Lisa. What colors do you use for blonde hair? It depends on the setup, like what the lighting is. So for example, blonde hair in a sunset's gonna look a little different than blonde hair in under moonlight. So, but if we're talking about just blonde hair and like a standard, say like halogen light or fluorescent light, um, or daylight, blonde hair you can use yellow ochre, any kind of yellow, a red, and a green. So yellow and green with some little hints of red. And red's typically kind of in the shadows for that one. Thank you so. Oh, cool! You're painting along here. Awesome. All right, let's see. Grace got that one first. Hansel Dog was so close, so close. Zygomatic arch. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Next one is also going to be an anatomy, artist anatomy question. What is the name of the plane in between the nose and the mouth that typically looks like a teardrop? What is the anatomical name for that? Yeah, no problem. Lisa, yeah. Oh, in sunshine, you would probably lean more towards the yellows. Yeah, I think you'd lean more towards the yellows and perhaps more blue in the middle values. This is my best guess. No worries, Lisa. Okay, so Grace said Phil and then Tim. So I guess it was an autocorrect Filtrum. Hansel Dog, not that one. Oh, close, close. I'm wondering if that was an autocorrect. But I'd have to give that one to Grace Filtrum. It's funny how it autocorrected. Phil Tim. I know what it means. Okay. Yep, no problem, Lisa. We'll be here tomorrow. Tomorrow. Okay. Next one. Anatomy. Yeah. Okay. So, what is the name of the cheekbone, the jawbone? What is the anatomical name for the jawbone? Hint, it's not the jawbone. Hey, Ida Halley, is there any way to make the skin tones not dry a darker value? Well, well, with acrylic, if that is the issue that you're having with acrylic, the best thing you could do is to work a lot lighter than you think you have to. And I know that's not much of an answer at all, but work a lot lighter than you think you have to, Because yes, by nature of acrylic, it will dry darker. However, there are other brands, like more expensive ones, that may end up drying closer to the same, but I don't quite know. I haven't tried them out. But just like I just added a lot of white there, work lighter than you think you need to go. And it's not a terrible thing because as long as it's lighter relative to the other thing, it's never going to dry so much darker that this is going to end up being the same as that. It shouldn't, and at least it shouldn't dry that way. Mandible, correct. Grace got the mandible. Let's see here. Another trivia question. Try to find a more difficult one. Okay, this one might be interesting for everybody. The gel-like mediums in oil paint, like this, Neo McGill. The gel-like mediums in oil paint are based off of what historical medium? What historical medium came before Neo McGill and Liquin? I'll give you an important hint. It was made using lead litharge. Now this one will be a tad bit more complicated. Please tell me you're dry. I think this should be dry enough. We'll see how we're using the values on the palette. Yeah, I'm contemplating getting another one of these and just keeping a paint palette in there. Because I really like the seal that comes with this. So, trivia question, whoever gets a point for whoever gets this one gets a point. What medium existed and still exists before Liquin and Neo McGilp? That was also a gel-like medium that uses lead litharge as part of the ingredients. Of course, I'm sorry that's not much of an answer, but um, try it the best that you can to just work a lot lighter. But it won't ever dry so much darker, like that much darker, that the light will all of a sudden be the same value as the shadow. Another suggestion for that idea is to use less water. Perfect. Now we've got this curvature here. Now the rest should be smooth sailing. That question might have been too difficult, but we will see. Again, what medium, gel-like medium existed before liquid and neo-McGilp that was partly composed of lead litharge? Perfect. This area finally dried. And they say that acrylic is fast drying. Who said that? This is slow drying, man. Could also be that I cleaned the palette before this, so there's more water on the palette. So again, shout out to the model Bree, who is a fellow artist, and her Instagram is linked in the description box. She's another local Virginia artist. So Bree, thank you for letting me paint your portrait here. Promise it'll look better than this by the time we're done. Alright, I'll give another hint with this one. Not sure how many people are looking this one up. So the question is, what medium existed before liquid and neo-McGilp that was a gel-like medium that was partly composed of lead litharge? And another hint will be, it was composed of lead litharge and black oil, which is a lead, basically a boiled linseed oil that was boiled with lead. Perfect. I'm so glad that that dried enough for us to keep working on it. How was it black linseed oil? That's what it was. It was the lead litharge. It's linseed oil that was cooked. What made it dark? Might have been too specific of a question, but mainly it was. I think it was mainly derived from classical painters in the Baltimore area and in like Florence, I believe. So the name is Merge medium, spelled Merger. Merge medium, which is a lead-based medium still used to this day. You can still buy it in oil painting. Thanks, Jonas. Glad you like the painting. Merge medium. Andrew, white lead. That would have been used. Well, lead itself would have been used in the composition of it. So let's see. Let's come up with another trivia question, perhaps not as specific as that one. Huh. What was the name of the Vermeer painting that features an inverted or reversed mirror? A mirror was altered in a Vermeer painting. The name of that one actually slips my mind. But it's a very famous Vermeer, so I'm sure you'll be able to figure that one out. Which Vermeer painting features a mirror of which the perspective on the mirror is altered? I'll give you a hint. There's a piano in that painting. There's a woman playing a piano in this painting. Giselle, the wedding, something. Added a little more of the cooler skin colors, so I was getting a tad bit too warm. So let's see. Correct. Point goes to Giselle. The music lesson. That was the title of that painting. Next question. What are the four colors associated to the original Zorn palette? What are the four colors associated to the original Zorn palette? Yeah, Grace, not the Arnolfini. That was I think that was from Van Eyck or Van Dyke. Hansel Dog, black, cad red, yellow ochre, and white. Very, very close. Very, very close. But the red was not cadmium red. Not yet. What was the historical red used in the Zorn palette? And yes, if you Google the Zorn palette, that will come up with cadmium red, but that's the modern Zorn palette. There we go, Alder. Black, yellow, ochre, vermilion, red, and lead white. Correct, correct. Alder gets this point. Good job, Alder. And yes, it wasn't just white, it was lead white. So vermilion, lead white, yellow ochre, and ivory black. Correct, correct, correct. That is the original Zorn palette. Okay. Well, next trivia question for everyone. What is the name of the precious blue pigment that Vermeer was known to use? He was famous for using this blue. It is a historical pigment that you can still buy to this day, but it's made from a precious stone. What is the name of this blue? Oh, Grace got that one right away. Lapis lazuli. Correct, correct. Lapis lazuli. Also a color that Robert Liberace likes to use a lot, from what I remember. That's from what I remember. Okay. So next trivia question for everybody. A color contains three components: hue, value, and what else? A color contains three components: hue, value, and what else? Close, close, Grace. Hue, value. Value is a synonym of tone. A color contains three components: hue, value, and what else? Andrew B, Viking boy, you got it. Andrew B gets the point. Hue, value, and chroma. Chroma means how saturated or how bright is that color. So for example, a stoplight is going to appear more chromatic than an apple. The red of a stoplight is more chromatic than an apple. Correct, correct. Next question, and these questions are more based on technical stuff. So let's see. When students attend an academic art school, they create copies of what templates? When students enter an academic art school, their first objective is to create copies of what templates? Specifically in academic art schools based in Italy. What is the name of the templates that students create copies of? Okay, Hansel Dog. Hansel Dog gets that one. Bargs. Correct. Barg plates is what they were called. And they are not to be referred to as drawings, rather templates for students to work from. So Hansel Dog gets that point. Okay. So next question. And this will be a variable question. Whoever gets this one right you can answer a couple different ways. Okay? Anyone that's watching, you don't have to Google this one. It just has to make sense. If you were to only use 3 colors to make a skin tone, what colors would you use? If you were to only use 3 colors to make a skin tone, what colors would you use? Giselle, not a grayscale. I think you meant that for the templates. But no, typically in an academic art school, I don't think they start off with templates. Yellow, red, green. Hansel Dog said yellow, white, and red. Giselle wrote red, blue, yellow. all of which can create a skin tone. Correct, correct. So that question was directed to whoever could respond with a combination the fastest. So Giselle gets that one. Red, green, and yellow. Red and green would make a brown because they're complementary. And the yellow would just make it a tad bit less brown. So yes, Giselle gets that point. Andrew B, very close, very close. You are correct. Everyone is correct. Yellow, ochre, red, white, that will also create a skin tone. That's why I said that was one you didn't have to Google. That was one you can come up with off the top of your head. Okay. So, in the spirit of those questions that are more kind of technique, art technique related, let's say, what would you use to make red lighter without going pink? If you were painting a red object, what would you use to make it look lighter but not look pink? What color would you use to add to red to make it look lighter without going pink? Andrew B was right on it. Exactly. Yellow. Exactly, exactly. So a lot of times new students or new artists will try to make a red object look lighter by adding white. And what that does is it actually makes it look pink. So correct, yellow. Yellow is correct. Andrew was right on it. Good job, Andrew. Andrew gets another point. Okay. Now another trivia question. Let's just let's dedicate this one to Sargent. A very famous Sargent quote, which tends to actually be the opposite for me, but very close. Hansel Dog, Grace, and Melody, very close, very close. So there's a Sargent quote that I found to be the opposite for me. So Sargent says, "Every time I paint a portrait, I lose a what?" Trivia question about a Sargent quote. John Singer Sargent said, "Every time I paint a portrait, I lose a what?" Question is, what does Sargent lose every time he paints a portrait? Andrew B is on fire right now. All right. There you go. Andrew knew this one right off the top of his head. No Googling required. Every time I paint a portrait, I lose a friend. It is a very famous quote from Mr. Sargent. And I found it to be the opposite for me. I tend to, become pretty good friends with everyone that I paint. So why is that? I don't know. I guess maybe because they're not paying me to paint them. Difference there. I guess Sargent had a different experience with that. Every time I paint a portrait, I lose a friend. A friend, not the same mouth resemblance. So yeah, Hansel Dog Grace, very close, very close. Andrew got that one. All right. While we go on break. This is gonna be a funny one. This is gonna be a really funny one. Um, for 2 points. This one will be 2 points. Not just 1 point, but two. Whoever is the first to come up with 5 famous painters with the first name John, you get 2 points. Whoever is the first to come up with a list of 5 famous painters whose first name is John gets 2 points. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break. Don't go anywhere unless you absolutely have to, and I'll be right back. Alrighty, so let's continue with the stream. So the question was for 2 points. Name 5 famous artists that have the first name John. So it looks like Grace might have got this one. John Constable, Martin, Opie, Glover, and Collier. And I really would have taken any names because there's so many sergeants. So many sergeants, so many constables, there's so many John William Waterhouse. I mean, there's just so many different artists with the name John. But yes, you get the point. I'm not really sure who Opie is, but I did say artists. So I was a little vague purposefully because there could have been singers in there as well. I'm just raising the light a tad bit more. And I get to about there. And we've got one more hour with this painting. Alright, so I'm going to add another layer for the background, potentially the final layer for the background. So I'm going to mix over here. Yellow, black. Okay, so next trivia question. And I guess these are kind of interesting because they're more painting related. Let's see. Why do oil paintings look cloudy? Why do oil paintings look cloudy when they dry? Why do oil paintings look cloudy when they dry? Why do oil paintings look cloudy when they dry? Oh, Hansel Dog. Yeah, John the Martin, exactly. Yeah, I can name some. Yeah, John the Martin is one. John Singer Sargent is another. John William Waterhouse is another one. John Constable is another one. So I'm missing one. Uh, Dang, I can't think of another one. At least from my little usual circle of names. Hansel Dog, part of it, yeah, they haven't been varnished. That's true. It's not the exact reason why. It's sinking in, yes, that's what it's called. That's the name of the what happens when they drop it. That's not necessarily the reason. Andrew, the oil evaporating out. That sounds scientifically plausible. And if no one else answers something else based on the oil, it has something to do with the oil. So if no one answers anything else, then Andrew will get the point. He is the closest to the correct answer. And yes, that is actually part of it. Pedro, polymerization. That might actually be correct. Well, the phenomenon is pretty close to what Grace also said. Top layer of oil sinks in. So these are very, very, very close. Very close, actually. All right, so this is gonna be split between three of you. Andrew, Grace, and Pedro. Very close. I like the term polymerization, so I'll give you that one. So keep track of your points, everyone. So three of you now get a point. What happens, at least from what I was told, is that yes, Grace is very close. Top layer of oil sinks in, but the reason is that the oil in the top layer sinks in is because the ground underneath absorbs the oil. So that's the reason, at least from what I was told. Again, sinking in and top layer of oil sinks is essentially the effect, but the cause is the layer underneath. So that's why yesterday when I did the oil painting, I used a lead primer because that minimizes the effect of the oil painting drying drastically different because it's already drying over top of a very stable layer. And Detective Giselle figured out that it was a commission. So in fact, when I do commissions with oil paintings, I typically use a lead ground for that reason. Very cool. I'm really happy that how close everyone is with that answer. That's not an easy one to figure out, by the way, because the answers are not that specific on the internet. It's a tough one, really, to answer. And that's another reason why we really like acrylics is that we don't have to worry about that. They just kind of dry as they are, and that's how they are. So, very, very good. Very close, very good. Yeah, Giselle, you figured it out. I don't know how you figured it out, but you figured it out. Um, cool. This seems to be somewhat interesting for everyone. All right. So tell me now. This is for 1 point. The first portrait paintings were painted on coffins by what? By who? The first portrait paintings that had planes and somewhat resemblance were painted on coffins by whom? All right, Giselle got that one. Good job, Giselle. Point. Another point goes to Giselle. Very fast. And oh my goodness, I was so my breath was taken away. Like I could not breathe. Um, when I saw these paintings in person. Yes, the Egyptian. Yes, the Egyptian paintings. Like I said, I couldn't breathe when I saw a 2,000-year-old portrait painting with planes, light and shadow. And I mean, light years better than what the modernists did. No offense to the modernist painters, but um, it was just out of this world. If you ever get to see one in real life, you're really going to wonder how on earth they were able to do that. But yeah, the Egyptian paintings. I mean, those are really the first portrait paintings. Incredible. Those are incredible. Okay, another trivia question. This is worth 3 points. This is a big one, and this is really going to be something that someone, if you answer this quickly, then you must really know a lot about my YouTube channel. So, what was the name of the series of painting videos that I did where I uploaded every day? What was the name of the series of paintings that I did? The series of painting videos that I did where I uploaded every day. This was a long time ago, way before the pandemic. I named it a very specific 3-letter title. Hey Andrew, you wrote, notice many of your portraits you make the eyes more open and lighter. I assume this is on purpose. Yes, this is on purpose. So that's taken from Bouguereau, Nelson Shank's Alma Tadema. I really like Alma Tadema portraits. John William Waterhouse. And yeah, eyes a little bit more open. Nose is typically a little bit longer. Yes, I do that on purpose. That is kind of a classical aesthetic that I picked up from all the master studies that I've done. But yeah, it's on purpose. Meaning that I kind of lean towards it. Not that I plan to do it, but I'm aware that I'd rather it look that way than the eyes too small. And the openness of the eyes is not really I don't plan that one out. That's probably just a mistake. But just to be bigger, I guess. So yes, that's correct. But the open part of the eyes is probably a mistake. Hey Angela, welcome, welcome. Animals, pets. So the series of paintings. So the point is 3 points. 3 points goes to whoever names the name of the series of videos that I used to do. And this was even before the Patreon days, I think. I'm not sure. Where I used to upload every day. I hope you've been well, Angela. You doing some more paintings these days? Three points goes to whoever can name that series. And it's way back in the day. I used to upload every day, and I used to call this series something, a name. It's also in the title of those videos, so you may have actually seen it. You finally painted a tree on your city painting. Oh, cool. So remember, the trivia question worth 3 points. What was the name of the series of videos that I used to upload every day? A hint would be they were uploaded on a daily basis. It's a huge hint, actually. Hey, Eileen gets the point. Eileen gets the point. It's okay that you had to look it up. It's alright. You get the point. I mean, not just the point. You get 3 of them. Eileen gets 3 points. It was titled The Daily Yupari. Correct, correct, correct. Why did I try that? I have no clue. I remember the first time that I uploaded that, my first video titled Daily Yupari. I was on my way to Repticon, a reptile exotic pet show, and I was kind of slightly panicking about it. But the idea was based on a YouTuber that unfortunately passed away, named Brian Barczyk, and I really enjoyed his energy. Like when he would, you know, every day he would pretty much scream at the camera, "Good morning and welcome to the vlog," is what Brian Barczyk used to say, and kind of motivated me to do that. And back then, I really wasn't making a living from, like, at least a livable living off of my art. And I thought that that would take me in that direction, but no, it didn't. Eventually, it was my live streams in 2020 that got me there, which is now what we're basing all of this off of. So Eileen got that one. You thought it was do it yourself? I think there was there might have been a DIY type video in that series, but I don't remember too well anymore. The Daily Upari, yeah, and I thought that the frequency of the uploads and the more entertaining stuff, like I was editing my trips to my painting groups, and I ended up spending more time editing than I did painting, and that was no good. That's why I prefer the live streams. I just sit here and paint and make a living doing that, and that's the dream for me. That was a big one, so Eileen gets the big one, the 3-pointer. Kind of like in basketball, isn't that like 3-point shot or something? I don't know what it's called, but all right, next. For 1 point. Let's not let this be about me. Mary Cassett attended a school of art in Pennsylvania named what? What was the name of the art school that Mary Cassett attended in Pennsylvania? For 1 point. And once we reach 10 minutes before the third hour of the stream, we'll tally up the points, see who is the winner. And of course, anyone that has any questions about the painting, feel free to ask. I typically will try to do these trivia questions while I'm in the subtlety stage of a painting, because there's not really much words that I can give you about what I'm doing. It's more just very small decisions. Angela, oh, you remember that? I used to paint dogs, lizards, and a turtle. You remember that? Oh, you like the turtle. Oh, thank you. I really didn't think anyone cared for those videos when I first did them. Honestly, I was pretty sad at the result of that series of paintings, but painting videos. But I'm glad you actually remember it. That means a lot to me. PAFA, yep. Eco322 gets the point. PAFA, which is the abbreviation of Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts. Yes, yes. That is the school that Mary Cassett went to in Pennsylvania. Correct, correct, correct. Next one. What was the name of the sculptor that did modernist sculptures that looked like very basic chicken wire? I don't usually do modern ones, but I throw some in there once in a while. What was the name of the sculptor that did chicken wire looking sculptures in the modernist times? Point goes to Grace. Alexander Calder. Correct, correct, correct. Alexander Calder was the modernist sculptor that did chicken wire looking sculptures. Correct, correct. Next question. Frida Kahlo was known to keep an exotic pet with her. What type of animal was this? For 1 point. Frida Kahlo was known for keeping a exotic pet. What type of pet was this? What type of animal was this? For 1 point. Angela, you get the point. Angela gets 1 point to Angela. It was a monkey. It was a monkey. Deer, maybe. I don't know. I mean, Frida Kahlo was one of the artists that I wish I could have met in real life. But yeah, she could have had a deer, but monkey is correct to my knowledge. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was a monkey. Correct, correct, correct. Next question, let's keep it Frida Kahlo oriented. Next question, what was the name of, and this is for 1 point, what was the name of the artist that Frida Kahlo associated with, what was the name of the male artist that Frida Kahlo associated with? Not saying he was a good guy, but he's part of the story. The deer was the subject. She had a deer too. Alright, so who said deer first? So Andrew gets a point for the deer. Alright, so Angela and Andrew get a point. I had a feeling there had to be a deer in there. So Andrew gets that point. And Angela. Andrew and Angela, you both get that point. I just knew about the monkey, but I'm sure. See, this makes me want to have met Frida even more. She had a deer. Angela and Andrew get the points. Keep track of your points because you will have to comment it down once there is only 10 minutes left on the stream. All right, Grace gets that one. Pedro's so close. Pedro, so close. So close. Diego Rivera. Correct, correct, correct. And from the Freedom movie, it didn't seem like it was a good partnership there. Yes, Diego Rivera. All right, so let's go with another one. Let's see. What painting did Rembrandt do near the end of his life that cost him pretty much his whole career, unfortunately? And this is the information I got from a documentary. What commission did Rembrandt get near the end of his life that basically cost him his career? And a hint is anyone that has seen the Simon Schama, not the Night Watch, that wasn't the end of his career, but probably the late middle of it. Close, but not the Night Watch. He still had somewhat of a career after that. But this one shattered him, according to a documentary that I saw. But yes, very close with the Night Watch, but not that one. It's another one. It's a history painting that Rembrandt was commissioned to do. And he had to tear it up and only saved one part of that painting. And this knowledge comes from a Simon Schama documentary. Anyone that hasn't seen that documentary, it's on YouTube. Simon Sharma. So not only are we getting knowledge on how to paint these things, these portraits, but history and technical information. So hopefully you find this entertaining. Thank you so much for the likes as well. Thank you so much for everyone that's been here. We finally broke 50 people in the stream. Thank you all so much. Please don't be afraid to leave any comments, any question. I can't wait to tell Bree, the artist that I'm painting here. Remember her Instagram is linked in the description for you. Fellow Northern Virginia artist. Harjot, this could have been you, man. Where have you been? This could have been your portrait. You're Northern Virginia. This is an open shout out to Harjot. Where have you been? I'm supposed to paint your portrait here. So just a little vignette here for the hoodie. Not too much for it. Remember, vignettes, what you leave unfinished to complement the more finished stuff. And this is an example of drying darker. So a way to avoid that is to paint lighter than you think you need to with acrylics. Alright, so not too many answers for that one. So we'll skip that one for now. I don't usually do that, but I'll give someone a chance to answer that question. You could also answer it in the comments. So we'll call this one an open question. So if you answer this in the comments, let me know in a future video and you're guaranteed a point. Thanks, Hansel Dog. I think you're talking to Grace. So. Alright, so next question for 1 point. will be, let's say, hmm. Let's do a repeat from yesterday. What was the first name of Monet's wife? His first wife. What was the first name of Monet's first wife? If you were here yesterday, you were probably typing it right now. If you have to look it up, whoever's typing it right now is probably going to get that one. But I will repeat questions. So if you didn't get it this time, you'll get it next time. I knew it. I knew it. Oh, that was close. Giselle, Hansel Dog, Grace, y'all were right there in probably a split second. Whoever was on the keyboard the fastest. Oh man, I probably sound antiquated saying keyboard, but whoever was typing on, there's no keyboard anymore, but typing the fastest got that one. So Grace got that one. Camille was the name of Monet's first wife. Very good, very good. Another repeat question. So whoever was here yesterday, this depends on how fast you can type. How many children did Vermeer have? This is a repeat from yesterday. Andrew got that one right away. All right, that was close. That was a close one as we're getting more answers as we speak. So again, let me know, everyone, how you like trivia during the subtleties. Seems to be you're enjoying it this time. Oh, you got by the advertisement. Unfortunate. Unfortunate. So Andrew got it at 15. Yes, I don't know how on earth that's possible, but Vermeer had 15 kids, although a lot of them didn't make it. 15 kids. Okay. Another repeat question from yesterday, which took a while to answer. So this one is, who remembers our conversation yesterday? What was the name of the artist, the teacher that taught Nelson Shanks color study? What was the name of the artist, the teacher that taught Nelson Shanks color study? Nelson Shanks was taught how to do color study by who? Ooh, look at that. Back to back. That was within a second. Within a second. But Grace got that one. Looks like the advertisement didn't get her that time. Henchy. Henry Henchy. Correct, correct, correct. That was a very close one. All right, so a new one, a new question. And based off of Nelson Shanks. Nelson Shanks had a son who is still alive today, a young man. He's younger than me. And he is a painter. What was the name, or what is the name, of Nelson Shanks' son who is painting today? I think he's still in his 20s. What is his name? You know his last name is Shanks, but what is his first name? And I got to meet the young man when he was probably about 12, a long time ago. There you go. Grace got that one. Oh, Grace is on a roll here. Alexander Shanks. Yep. I'm so proud of him. When I first met him, he was just a little boy. He was probably 12, 11 or 12 when I met him. A big legacy to fill, but yes, Alexander Shanks. Point goes to Grace. Okay. Another question. Let's try to make this a little interesting. What is the name of the palette that I'm using right now? This is a pretty fast one, so whoever types this one the fastest will get this point. The name of this acrylic palette. This all depends on who's typing the fastest. Who is typing the fastest? Hansel Dog got that one. Looks like that one might have been pretty close. This palette is the sta-wet palette. Correct, correct. Oh, that was a typo on yours, Giselle. So not the Zorn palette, but yes, the sta-wet. Nearly typed stay dry. That'd be the opposite of what we'd want, but yeah. All right. Now another interesting question. What is the name? So that point goes to Hansel Dog. Hansel Dog gets that point. Remember, everyone, keep track of your points because, well, it's already 10 minutes till the hour. So one more question, and then you're going to tally up your points. Last question of the trivia part, the trivia night. Last question. What was the name of my favorite water mixable oil paint brand? When I use water mixable oil paints, I use a very specific brand that is my favorite brand to use. What is the name of this brand? All right, EOK3 2-2 got that one. Angela's so close. So close. EOK 322 gets that one. I know it's a typo. I know. I get it. I get it. CONRA. You meant Cobra. I know. I can tell when it's a typo. Angela, you were so close. But since it was a typo, I'll give the point to both Angela and EOK322 because you were so close. It was right there. So Angela, you get a point also. So everyone, did you keep track of your points? If not, don't worry. We're going to do this on many different streams. Remember, we're doing 4 streams a week. So tally up your points now. We've got 10 minutes till the stream ends. And hopefully, Bree will like this painting. Again, thank you for letting me paint your portrait here on YouTube, Bree. A local Virginia artist. We'll collaborate together in the future. Link to her Instagram is in the description box of the video. Her favorite medium to work with is acrylic. So that's why I chose to paint her portrait in acrylic. Tally up your points, everyone. Hansel Dog, 4 points. Grace, 17. Angela, 2 points. Oh, I'm so glad you're all participating. Andrew, 4, you think? Well, I believe you. Well, I certainly can't keep track. Eileen, 3 points. And it looks like Grace may be the winner, but we'll still see who's got how many points. It looks like, yeah, Grace may be the winner. Who won yesterday? Was it I think it was Giselle, Detective Giselle, right? Not sure. Yep, it was. Looks like it was Grace that won this one. Who won? Who won yesterday? I think it was Detective Giselle. I'm not sure who won yesterday. Grace wins the night. Oh, you won yesterday too. Whoa, undefeated. Undefeated champion of the world. Yeah, Gray Sky. No worries. Hopefully it's not too distracting. I know you were painting as well. I'm used to this because I've been painting for 16 years, so kind of used to this. So don't ever think you're distracting me, everyone. I really encourage all kinds of comments and questions that we've been getting. Thanks, Hansel Dog. Yep, a round of applause for Grace. So yes, it can be done with acrylic, and it can be done just like you would do with an oil painting, just a different order of operations, basically. So what is the major difference between painting a portrait like this in acrylics versus painting it in oil paint? The major difference, the only real major difference here is right there. When things don't dry completely and they start to lift. So that what you want to do is take a break or get a blow dryer or something. And when things start to lift, specifically in the dark lights, that's where you're going to encounter the most difficulty with acrylic that you wouldn't necessarily have to deal with oil paint. Other than that, acrylic really does yield itself to more long-term developed studio works that you can do with more, I guess, freedom than with oil paint. Because all of this paint, all I gotta do is cover it with the lid and this will not dry. Next week I'll open this up and it will still be wet. And of course the brushes are quite easy to clean. Soap and water, that's all you need. I'm even lazier than that. I put it in a container with water, which we know is not the correct thing to do, but I do that anyway. Hey, Hansel Dog. 48 people are watching and only 8 hit the like button. That's pretty funny. So people don't really like the painting, I guess. Well, I did my best. They don't always come out that well, but it's okay. It's okay. I did the best. That's all right. I did the best I could. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm gonna hang out for a little bit though. I'm not quite done. And thank you to all of you that pressed the like button. I do appreciate it. Yes, light to dark with acrylic. You can do the same as with watercolor, light to dark. But you could also go dark to light and just let the light kind of, just like we added a thin layer of skin tone and then went, which was dark, and then we went in with the light. Acrylic is a lot more forgiving than you would think. It's actually way more forgiving than we think it is. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and sign this one. I'm going to use just a darkish gray. I'm going to sign it over here. And just a 24. Because obviously, I'm not painting in the 20th century and I'm not painting in the 22nd century. So you know what 24 means. Oh, thanks. Thanks, Grace. Thank you, thank you. No worries, Lisa. We will be back tomorrow. So anyone that may be new to the streams, remember, we are on here 4 days a week, 3 hours at a time, Tuesday through Friday. So that is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Tuesday is watercolor. Wednesday is oil paint. Thursday is acrylic. Fridays is pastel. So we are on here quite a lot. Full-time schedule for me here on YouTube, trying to make something of myself with these video streams. And now we're implementing trivia during the subtleties, which is a whole lot of fun for all of us, very educational. Thanks, Lisa. I did my best with this one. Again, this is a painting of an artist named Bree. She's a local Northern Virginia artist. A link to her Instagram is in the description box of this video. Again, if you're watching Bree, thank you for letting me paint your portrait here on YouTube. Tomorrow's pastel painting will be of another friend of mine from the Billiard Academy. So we're pretty much going to paint everybody from Northern Virginia at some point here on YouTube. Alrighty, so that's about it for us today. I'm glad that everyone enjoyed this stream. And now you know my schedule. You're welcome here anytime. Remember, these streams are completely free for everyone. Once again, thank you all so much for watching. I wish you the very best. And I'll see you tomorrow.